So it's the day before your IELTS test. How do we prepare for this momentous occasion? The first thing, take a deep breath. Put everything into perspective. Realize that the IELTS exam is not like other tests. You can always do it again. So even if it goes badly, and it won't, you can always retake the test. So let's think about it. The IELTS speaking exam is around 11 to 14 minutes. It's only a short time, so my first piece of advice is that you must make a good first impression, much like our little friend over here. When walking into the test, please try to smile, take a deep breath, and greet the examiner nicely. Good morning, pleasure to meet you. My name is Charles. Then smile. If the examiner asks you, how are you today? Then try to respond in a positive way. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit scared, but I'm very excited to be here. Next, a few rules for us to look at in part 1. First of all, remember, part 1 is a test of all 4 things: fluency, grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. However, fluency is especially important here. What I want you to do is to remember a few rules. Rule number 1, please don't repeat the question. So if they ask you, do you like your hometown? Don't repeat, yes, I like my hometown because. Say, yes, absolutely. I love the place I was born and raised because. Just a nice way so that you're not always repeating. Do you have any hobbies? Oh, yes, my pastime is boxing. So we're looking for the synonyms there to sound more natural. Next, try to prepare content related to all of the common topics, but the most special ones are these 6: work, study, hometown, travel, hobbies, and can you guess the last one? Yeah, talking about your family or your house, your accommodation, where you live. Try to prepare a lot of vocabulary related to these topics. Next, I want to teach you a couple of nice grammar structures so that you don't just list in your answers. So if they ask you about your hometown, you can say, Ho Chi Minh is very multicultural, which is important because people can practice their English with handsome foreigners. Try not to just list lots of ideas. If they ask you, who do you live with? Don't say, I live with my mum, dad, brother, sister, uncle, auntie. Use adjectives. I stay with my handsome dad, my stunning mum, and my cute children, the people I love most in the world. So try to remember these rules. Now guys, I recently attended an IDP training session for examiners, and they told me that the most important and biggest problem in Vietnam is pronunciation. Really try to be aware of your final sounds when you speak. Pronunciation is vital for the examiner to be able to listen and understand what you're saying. So words like always, because, sometimes, these are really important in order to sound more natural. Remember though, accent doesn't matter, so you have the freedom in terms of that. I would love you to pick the British accent. Next, with part 1, I want to think about the power of examples. Remember, in part 1, you can give examples about yourself. You can talk about your family, your friends, your situation. Now, there's 2 main ways to give examples. The first one is to, of course, say, for example, and then use the past tense. For example, last year. For example, last month. Here's an example here. The question, do you like to travel? I might say, yes, absolutely. I'm a big fan of going on holiday, not only because I can relax and unwind, but also because I can spend time with the people I love most in the world. For example, last year I traveled to the majestic mountains of Dalat and took photographs of the breathtaking views. So don't be afraid to give examples in your speaking. Another good technique for examples is to say, I can vividly remember in my childhood, in my teenage years, as a youth. Here, do you like street markets? Yes, absolutely. I can vividly remember in my childhood, I visited Bun Than Market with my grandma and bought a brand new Louis Vuitton handbag. This was a cherished moment for me. So here we're giving a really nice example. And there's two techniques there, okay? Try to remember that in your exam. Guys, if you don't understand a question, don't be afraid to ask the examiner to repeat the question. But do this in a polite way. If they ask you, don't say, what or okay? Try to be polite by saying, oh, I'm sorry, please may you repeat the question. Just a really nice polite response and a smile. Ultimately, guys, in part 1, it lasts for about 4 to 5 minutes. And I want you just to try and enjoy it. Make sure your answers aren't too short and, of course, not too long. We're aiming for around 2 or 3 sentences. Try to read the body language of the examiner in this part. Moreover, guys, when you're in the test, don't sit like a robot. Don't be afraid to move your hands and smile in order to sound more natural. Let's move on to part 2 now. So now let's think a little bit about part 2 and what to expect. Now, guys, when they give you the question in part 2, please don't react. If it's a question you have never seen before, please don't say, I have no ideas. No, take a deep breath and try to relax. Don't forget your intonation with your introductory sentence. Really beautiful. We will look at that in a minute. So, they have given you the question. Please remember, we have our 2 main techniques. The first one, we follow our speaking structures. Number 1, variety of something. Number 2, we tell a passionate story. Number 3, we talk in the past how we felt, and then in contrast or similarly, now how we feel. So we've got that contrast of emotions. Moreover, don't forget when we say variety, we can use our grammar structures. First one being if, then. If I study English, then I will be able to study abroad. The second one, since, in order to, as well as. Since I am passionate about traveling, I want to learn English in order to visit London, as well as to learn about the culture of this great country. So that technique there. Remember the second technique, we tell a long, continuous story. Starting with an introduction, then reflecting on the past, a past situation or experience that we want to share. Then we will give a description and add more detail. Then, of course, we will give our opinion and finally end in the future. Please spend time to think about which technique you love most. I will include some videos that give more in-depth descriptions of these techniques. Part 2 is a really good opportunity for you to show off your ability with the English language. Take a deep breath and try to speak for at least 1 minute and 50 seconds, if not 2 minutes. Remember, in part 2, you have 1 minute to prepare and then 2 minutes speaking time continuously. For me personally, I'm a big fan of part 2. Don't forget to have intonation in your answer, especially in the introduction. There are many wonderful places I could talk about. However, if I had to pick one, it would be the thriving metropolis, Ho Chi Minh City. Yeah. You don't need to speak fast. Slow down. Give yourself time to think. And remember, try to smile throughout. Let's move on to part 3. Now remember, in part 3, your questions will normally be related to your part 2. So in part 2, if they ask you, describe your favorite celebrity. When you have finished, in part 3, they might say, why do people like celebrities? Who is a famous celebrity in your country? Now team, remember, in part 3, there are a few different types of questions. They might ask for your opinion. They might ask you to compare the past to the present. They might ask you to compare or contrast 2 different things. These are all different types of questions. They might ask you to look at the similarities and the differences between things. But don't worry, because we have 3 techniques we can use. Beautiful techniques, just so we're not always answering in the same way. In part 3, they will normally ask you around 6 or 7 questions. We're aiming for anywhere between 35 to 50 seconds in our answers. Technique number 1 is our magic formula. First of all, we directly answer the question. Then we explain why. Then we give an example. Now remember, in part 3, when you give your example, try not to talk about yourself. You want to talk more about society generally. And then finally, we give the alternative, the other side, by saying, moreover, Furthermore, in contrast, however, on the other hand, so that's technique 1, which we can use for pretty much any question. Then, for one of the 5 or 6 questions, we might want to use technique number 2, where we say, in my opinion, it depends on. Maybe it depends on age, gender, wealth, personality, location. Now, this is quite an advanced technique, and it really will make you stand out in your exam. The final technique, technique 3, again, really simple but really effective. We say, some people believe, but I. Some people believe that Ho Chi Minh should invest more in affordable housing, but I think the government should. So this one shows the examiner you have the ability to give your opinion and other people's opinions. Of the 6 questions, I would probably use technique 1 for maybe 80%, 3 or 4 of them, and then technique 2 for 1 and technique 3 for 1 answer as well, if you can. Ultimately, remember, in part 3, the examiner is really testing your ability to talk about a wide range of different topics. For me, part 3 is what can really make you stand out. Now, some final thoughts. So let's end with a few final thoughts. Something to remember is that in IELTS speaking, you are not marked on your ideas. You are marked on your ability to speak. Let's think about the 4 criteria. Pronunciation. Really focus on those final sounds and having natural intonation in your voice. Number 2, vocabulary. Don't overforce your vocabulary. Only use it when it's natural to do so. This is really important. Use idioms is okay, but don't overuse them because they can sound unnatural. Fluency. This is my favorite. Guys, when you are struggling for something to speak or you don't have any ideas, don't say or you know or like, because it sounds unnatural. Just pause and give yourself time to think. Moreover, be honest with the examiner. To be honest, I've never really thought about this before. Please just give me a minute to speak. Finally, think about your grammar. Please be careful with your grammar in terms of the past tense. Last week, I go to Vung Tau. No. I went. I traveled to Dalat. That's really important, the final sounds and the past tense. Past tense mistakes will pull you down. Remember, it's much easier and much better to speak simple vocabulary, simple ideas, but in the perfect way, better than to make your answers really complicated and make lots of mistakes. Ultimately, guys, with the IELTS speaking test, go in there, have fun, don't be too formal, look smart, be confident, and don't forget to smile. Try to enjoy the experience because it'll be over really fast. Show off your ability and all of your hard work. Thanks for watching, guys. Hit subscribe and leave a comment down below with any thoughts you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.